The NFC West has been as competitive as any division in the NFL so far in 2025. 3 teams sitting at 5-2. Who's going to be the first one to crack as we head towards the second half of the season? We're going to be breaking it all down here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined, as always, by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to all the 12s who are listening in, whether you are down in Brooksville, Florida, or listening from Pismo Beach, California. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. Seahawks heading into their bye week, a much-earned bye week as they won their last 2 games going into their week off. So no game to stress about this upcoming weekend. Nonetheless, the NFC West standings starting to take shape with 3 teams sitting at 5-2. We're going to be looking at how things could shake out atop the division with those 3 teams all tied currently. And then we are going to be dishing out our bye week report card on offense. We've got skill position, offensive line, tight end, you name it. We are going to be dishing out our grades for the first 7 games, all brought your way by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now for your lead story here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Going into the bye, the Seahawks are sitting pretty at 5-2, as Mike McDonald said. After Monday's win against the Texans, they have not played a complete game yet, but they've got 5 victories in their first 7 games. 5 of their last 6, they've been in the win column, sitting in a 3-way tie atop the toughest division in the NFL right now, with the Rams and 49ers having these same records. And this really begs the question, who is going to be the team of the 3 to crack first? And maybe this ends up being one of those crazy division races we get every 5-6 years where you have 3 teams that end up finishing with 11 or 12 wins. We've seen it happen before. It's rare, but more likely there's going to be somebody that's going to fade a little bit moving forward, especially when you consider the Seahawks still have 2 games left with the Rams. They have a game left with the 49ers at the end of the season as well. These 3 teams still have a chance to beat up on each other. All 3 have plenty of good quality opponents left on their remaining schedules as well. There's a lot of factors that go into it. You can look at injuries. You can look at strength of schedule, who teams are playing, how many home games they have. You can look at who they have played up to this point. But really, it feels like this is as wide open as you're going to see with 3 5-2 teams right now atop this division. It could go any way.
It really could. And this is kind of what I thought might happen, having gone to the LA Rams and San Francisco 49ers training camps over the summer, Corbin, as well as, of course, the Seahawks. And I really did think that these were a couple of the elite teams in all of the NFL. Now, I certainly was not forecasting the catastrophic injuries which the San Francisco 49ers have undergone so far this season, and certainly wasn't expecting that even after those injuries, they would still be in first place. Of course, they have that 5-2 record, as you acknowledge there. The Rams have the same record, but the Rams have not played very many teams in the division. Only 1 team in the division. They lost that game to the 49ers. The 49ers have won each of their games in the division, so that's why they win the tiebreaker over both LA Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks actually own the tiebreaker over the Rams right now. If the playoffs were held right now, the Seahawks would actually have the 6th seed. There are 7 teams in total in the NFC that have a record of 5-2 or better, but no team in the NFC has more victories than the Seahawks. The Green Bay Packers right now at 4-1-1 actually have the number 1 seed if the playoffs were starting right now. So you asked the great question about who would crack first. I think that you have to look at the 49ers because, again, the injuries, the season-ending injuries sustained by 2 of their best players, Nick Bosa, the edge rusher, Fred Warner, the middle linebacker, of course, two future Hall of Fame caliber players. Yes, the 49ers are expecting to get Brock Purdy back. Yes, they got George Kittle back this past week. He didn't get a single reception, however. So it remains to be seen if the 49ers are going to keep up this winning track that they have been on so far. They are the only team in the NFC West that is not on bye this week. They actually travel to Houston, where they're a 1.5 point underdog at this point, because it is a possibility that Mac Jones is again going to be starting rather than Brock Purdy. And, the Seahawks fans know all too well how good that Houston Texans defense is, especially when they are at home. And I think that if you look at the rest of the 49ers schedule, then it is a difficult one. Again, they do not have a bye this week. Everybody else in the division does. Their bye actually isn't until week 14. So after they play Houston on the road, then they go to the Giants on the road. They host the LA Rams. Then they go to Arizona and then have Carolina. So that's their next 5 weeks. I think that there is a real possibility that they win 2 or 3 of those games, but I would be stunned if they win all 5. And I do think that the Rams and the Seahawks have a little bit easier schedule, and of course have a week to kind of lick their wounds, so to speak, and get prepared for the upcoming onslaught of games in their future.
And we've talked a little bit about the Seahawks schedule. I mean, we know the Commanders coming up. That's a tough game, East Coast. It is a night game, so you don't have the 10 a.m. aspect part of it. And there's a chance that Jaden Daniels ain't going to be ready to play. He's not going to be playing this week with a hamstring injury. It could be Marcus Mariota's season for Washington again in that game. That's something to keep an eye on. And then the Cardinals at home, that's always a tough game, with Arizona likely to have Kyler Murray back by that point. But I look at the Rams schedule. They play the Saints on the 2nd. So they get an easy home game against New Orleans. And look, New Orleans has been tough on a lot of teams, even though they haven't won games. So maybe that'll end up being more competitive than we think. But then they have to play at San Francisco. They host the Seahawks. They host the Buccaneers. And then they have to travel to Carolina to play the Panthers, who, oh, by the way, the Panthers right now have a winning record. So that could end up being a tough game. And then they got to play at Arizona. I mean, I don't know necessarily that they've got an easy schedule here either, but the one thing that seems to be working for the Rams right now, other than Puka Nakua's banged up right now, they have been the healthiest team in that division. Matthew Stafford stayed upright. The issues in the preseason have not resurfaced. He's been healthy. He's slinging the ball over the place. Their offensive line is getting healthier. Their defense has been very healthy. Really, the Seahawks and 49ers have had way more injuries to deal with. San Francisco's had the catastrophic ones. Seattle's had these nagging ones with Witherspoon and Love being out, Derek Hall missing several games. They've had some of those where they're not season-ending variety, but they're significant because you're missing guys for several games. And Seattle's going to get a lot of those players back. So Seattle and LA have got the health advantage. San Francisco maybe has the coaching advantage. I mean, we've seen what Kyle Shanahan's staff has done with this team, and Christian McCaffrey's healthy. Can he stay healthy? That's a big question mark. But, look, I could see any of these 3 teams at this point winning this division, but I'd have to agree with you that San Francisco's got the toughest circumstances. I think they've got the hardest schedule of the 3 teams, and the injuries that they're not going to be getting guys back. If they have more injuries as the year progresses, it's going to be even trickier for them. Getting Brock Purdy back is certainly going to help. And Brandon Ayuk, who knows when he's going to be back. He's had some setbacks. So if they get him back, that makes things a little bit better for their offense as well. But right now, to me, the Rams and the Seahawks are the 2 teams that are best equipped to be able to see this thing through to the end of the season, just like last year. San Francisco may be sitting over there like, keep doubting us. We've already beaten the Rams once, but I think health and schedules have to be considered here. All 3 teams play a lot of the same opponents in the second half, but I am wondering if the injuries are going to eventually catch up with San Francisco. And I feel like the Rams are a team that's they've kind of been mid up to this point. They're 5-2, but they've had some really close calls. They should have lost to the Indianapolis Colts early this year. The Colts should be undefeated as far as I'm concerned. I look at this schedule, and you have to remember Seattle's got to play the Colts, but they get that game at home. So that may benefit them. And it's later in the year. Who knows what the Colts are playing like at that point. But there's a lot of different variables here. If I had to guess here, I'd say San Francisco's most likely. But all it would take is one of the other 2 teams having some injuries hit that that could change things. So this very much does feel like it is up in the air. 3 teams that equally have an opportunity to be the top king of the NFC West when the year ends.
Yeah, no question about it. And look, I mean, these are 3 playoff caliber teams. So whether, I mean, obviously you want to win the division, you want to be able to secure a home bye or home playoff games, perhaps the bye and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that any one of these teams, if they sneak into the playoffs as a wild card team, they are going to be a contender, because I just don't see a dominant team in the NFC right now. As I mentioned before, there's not a single team that has more victories than the Seahawks do at 5-2. That's not, that's including the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, of course, at 5-2. The Detroit Lions at 5-2. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5-2. So again, there's some really good football teams out there. I don't think that any one of them is just so physically dominant. I think you can make an argument that Seattle is as good as any of those clubs. And obviously, with the success that the Seahawks have had on the road under Mike McDonald, then I don't think that it is as so much a foregone conclusion that a wild card team traveling would be a loser in this type of scenario. So again, I think there's an awful lot of reason for optimism. I agree with you. I think the San Francisco's injury issues and the fact that they do have a pretty formidable schedule here up front coming up with that bye week, not until week 14. It is going to be difficult, but the heart that the 49ers have shown has been very impressive. I mean, the fact that they were able to win a game, basically stole a victory from the jaws of defeat against the Rams earlier this year. Alfred Collins punching out the ball at the goal, and when Kyron Williams, he had the game wrapped up for the Rams. Again, I think that like you said, I think the 49ers are thinking, sure, doubt us, because that's all we've done is beat the Seahawks, obviously, already, and then beat the LA Rams, both on the road. So again, never question the heart of a club like that. They play very, very well. In my opinion, the LA Rams continue to be the most talented team in the division. Certainly the quarterback, Matthew Stafford, has just absolutely been on fire. For everybody chanting MVP with Sam Darnold, take a look at Matthew Stafford's numbers. I mean, they've been spectacular. But at the same time, I do think that the 2 most talented teams, the LA Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, can't wait in a couple of weeks when the 2 teams face off at SoFi.
Yeah, right now, this is a 3-team collision course. We'll see how it ends up playing out once the Seahawks come out of their bye. As you said, the 49ers being the only NFC West team suiting up this weekend. When we come back, it's report card time. As we enter the bye week, we are going to start with offensive skill positions. That'll be coming up next year on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. The NFL season's officially underway, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Whether it's login screens, prices jumping at the checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pull up on Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I get amazing deals. I'm talking your favorite NFL games for as low as $100, sometimes even less. The app makes it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying, and I love the zone deals they offer too. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. He's Rob Rang. A special thanks to each and every one of the 12s tuning in on this Wednesday evening. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks heading into their Week 8 bye. They're coming off a big Monday night win over the Texans. They've won 5 of their past 6, as hot as any team in the NFC going into this much deserved and much needed week off. And as we do every year on the bye, we love it when it's closer to the middle of the season. You know, if you have like a week 4, week 5 bye, it doesn't feel like you've had enough of a track record to really build grades. But we've now got 7 games. So we are going to be dishing out our bye-week report cards here, and we got to start, as always, with the quarterback position. And we've talked so much the past few weeks about the great things that Sam Darnold has done. He obviously had his worst game of the season, in my opinion, against Houston. Did some good things. It was not a terrible game, but he had a couple turnovers, one of them being directly turned into a touchdown on a strip sack. So there's still plenty of areas of improvement. But when you look at this season holistically, Rob, Darnold has been a top 5 quarterback in basically every metric. He has been so in completion rate, yardage, yards per attempt. He's still first in the NFL. He has been aggressive, taking shots downfield, and he's also, for the most part, limited turnovers. We didn't see it Monday night, but he's generally done a really good job of taking care of the football. So for me, I'm not going to give an A just because there's been enough sequences where turnovers have been a problem and third downs have been an issue. And I'm going to put some of that on the quarterback, but I'm going to give an A-. I think he has been much better than I anticipated that he was going to be running this offense. He has picked up where he left off and then some from Minnesota, and just the leadership and the ability to handle pressure this year. That has really been something. There's been a few hiccups here and there, but he's been so much better than I've ever seen him in that regard. So for me, Sam Darnold gets an A- pretty easy.
Yeah, I give him a B+. So a very similar kind of grade here for all the reasons that you just said. I mean, he's got 12 touchdown, 4 interception ratio. So obviously that speaks for itself. As you acknowledge, the aggression has really been exciting. I mean, how willing he is to throw the ball deep and how just perfect accuracy that he's often demonstrated with that. I think that it's very easy to gush about the wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, but of course, for all of JSN's big plays so far, you're relying on the quarterback to get you the ball in the first place, and there has been very few times where you've seen JSN have to reach back to pull a pass from behind him or anything of that nature. Typically hit him in stride or perfectly along the sideline to kind of accentuate the superstar that is JSN. So yeah, I think that Sam Darnold, whether you're going to quibble over A-, a B+, I would agree. I have a hard time giving him an A, considering that there were a couple of cracks in the foundation, I thought, in this last game. And I would agree with you. I thought that it was his worst game so far this season. But as we talked about in the Seahawks squad show with Anders Hurst and with Chris Crawford, if this is the worst of Sam Darnold, then sign up, Seahawk fans, because this feels like a quarterback who, just like a year ago, should very much be in the MVP or all-pro kind of conversation.
All right, let's go to the backfield now. At running back, Ken Walker III, Zach Charbonnet. We've seen a couple touches for George Halani, but really he's been a special teams guy. But we've gotten to see K9, we've gotten to see Zach Charbonnet, and some fans like it and some don't, that there has been kind of a by committee approach with those two. And a lot of times Charbonnet's been getting more opportunities. Look, I have high expectations for talented running backs. And I understand that Seattle's offensive line, they've been as bad as anybody at giving up leakage. And there's been a lot of plays that have been blown up before they can get started. That is not on the running backs. At the same time, I feel like there's also been a lot of opportunities where the running backs have either tried to do too much or they haven't taken what's in front of them. The reads haven't been on point. We saw a lot of that again on Monday night. I'm giving a C+ for this running back group. I just I've not been overly impressed. I think that there's been some games where we have seen both of these running backs show up and play well, but they can't get a game where both of them are rocking and rolling at the same time. And I feel like, you can always point to blocking, but I think there have been some things that both these backs have done at times where they haven't maximized the blocking that they've had in front of them. And I guess I just have higher expectations for two guys that were second-round picks. So I'm going to go C+ for the running game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually gave him a B-, but for, again, a lot of the same reasons that you just said. I think that if you look at the statistics here, then it kind of helps prove our point here as well. Kenneth Walker III has 95 rushing attempts so far this season for 430 yards. That's a 4.5 yard average. Pretty solid. It's not spectacular, however. His longest run of the year so far is just 31 yards. I say just. I mean, my goodness, that 31-yard run is a significant one. It's explosive in every which way you could describe it. But at the same time, we have been spoiled a little bit with some of the 50-plus yard touchdown jaunts that he has had over his career. I've been expecting to see one of those. The fact that we haven't seen it, that we've only seen 8 receptions from Kenneth Walker III, I really thought that he was on the verge of a truly explosive type of a season this year. And the fact that my expectations were very high, like yours, kind of tempers my enthusiasm a little bit, because there have been just too many runs where it feels like he is looking for that big play and winds up getting tackled for a minimal gain or even for a loss. On the flip side, I think with Zach Charbonnet, I have seen a little bit more of that kind of dogged determination the Seahawks have as well. That's why he has been their guy in the short yard situations, why he leads the club with 5 rushing touchdowns so far this season. But to your point before about how there's so many Seahawks fans out there that have been disappointed with the running game, I mean, my goodness, Charbonnet has 72 rushes for a total of 205 yards. I mean, that's a measly 2.8 yard per carry average. So again, just looking at the statistics, I think you can make an argument that both you with a C+ and me at a B- for Charbonnet and the running backs as a whole, that maybe we're being too positive right now, considering that weak yard per attempt average. So again, I just think that some of this has to be pinned on the offensive line. Some of this has to be pinned on the play calling. Clint Kubiak has definitely wanted to run the ball when he's had a loaded box. Maybe you could even argue that Sam Darnold should be checking out of some of those options. But still, I thought the running back room was going to be one of the team's true strengths. And I think it's been just a little bit above average so far this season.
Let's go to receiver now. If this was just Jackson Smith and Jigba, it would be an A. I mean, he's on pace right now to break Calvin Johnson's record for the most receiving yards in a season. Now, we have a long way to go. It's going to be very difficult for him to keep that pace. At the same time, that tells you the kind of year that he's having 7 games in. So if this is just JSN, it would be an A. He's having a phenomenal season. I'm going to go an A- though, because I think that the receivers, I mean, we went into the year, you more so than me, and I understood why, respected your opinion on this. There were questions about creating separation and questions, do they have enough athletes on the outside? But look, Cooper Kupp has been an elite run blocker as he's been throughout his entire career. That's got to be accounted for. He's had some explosives. He had a 32-yard catch on Monday night. He hasn't gotten the large number of targets I think some people thought he was going to get, but he's been effective since week 1. Had kind of a rough opener, but he's been really effective since then. Got his first touchdown a couple weeks ago. I just think you look at the complete package, Cooper Kupp has done a lot for this football team. And Torrey Horton's got 3 receiving touchdowns. Now, Monday night, that was tough. He had some really hard throws that were tough for him to bring in. Just wasn't in sync with Sam Darnold, but he's made the big plays on special teams, the punt return touchdown. So he's done so many things to help this football team. And again, he's got 3 receiving touchdowns. Derek Young has given them a ton of great stuff on special teams. He had a 36-yard catch in his limited chances. Jake Bobo, when he's been in the lineup, limited time, he's made some things happen. I think this has been a strength for this team away from JSN, even if a lot of the time Darnold seems like he's force-feeding. Look, I got a number 1 receiver in the NFL. I'm force-feeding him too, especially if he's getting open. That's not knocking the other guys. When they've had their chances, they have made plays. I think this has been a really good receiving core.
I think it's been solid receiving core. Obviously, as you said, JSN is just an A+. I mean, you can plus, whatever you want to say. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And I will certainly admit that I wasn't expecting him to play this well, to him to slide into this number 1 role, just seize that role and be dominant. I certainly wasn't expecting that. I did have some reservations about whether he was going to be able to get open against a guy who has the sticky coverage skills of like a Derek Stingley this past game, and yet he is continuing to prove me and any one of his other critics. I mean, remember, JSN was drafted 20th overall. So it's not like, that he was considered a slam dunk when he entered the draft a couple of years ago, but he certainly is playing at an all-pro, maybe even MVP caliber level. So he has been phenomenal. That said, he has 50 catches so far. The Seattle's next best receiver in terms of wide receivers is, of course, Cooper Kupp, who's got 24, so half of that. He only has the 1 touchdown so far. And you mentioned Torrey Horton, and he's got the 3 touchdown receptions. He's only got 9 catches so far. So again, you're going from 50 to 24 to 9. Derek Young, Jake Bobo, 2 catches each. I mean, my goodness, talk about a receiving core that is as, reliant on one player as it probably gets in all of the NFL. So that scares me a little bit. So I do have the Seahawks wide receivers right now with a B, which is definitely better than average. But at the same time, considering how good JSN has been, to get a B for the whole group kind of speaks to what I think the rest of this group has been. Like, I definitely think that this team has more talent than a B suggests, and maybe there are a little bit beholden to the play calling and just the focus on running the football of this club. But I have a hard time giving a grade higher than a B for the group as a whole.
When we come back, we're going to continue our bye-week report card. We are going to be looking at the offensive line and tight end group. That'll be coming up next here on our Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
The NFL season's already in week 8. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props such as how many interceptions Mac Jones is going to throw for the 49ers this weekend, building a same-game parlay with multiple prop bets from the Week 8 slate, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more thrill to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. Glad to be joined, as always, by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to all the 12s who were tuning in on this Wednesday evening. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We are dishing out our bye-week report cards for the Seahawks. We're all offense today. We've looked at the skill positions. Yes, I know tight end is considered a skill position, but in this offense, it's kind of an extension of your offensive line, particularly with the run game. So we're going to talk tight ends. But first, Rob, let's look at the offensive line, and we can give individual grades for the position groups. For me, I'm going to grade the line and just kind of dive into what I've seen. To me, I'm giving this group a B-. And some might be surprised that I'm going that low, given the relatively low expectations that a lot of people had going into the season. And I think if you're breaking this into pieces from a pass pro standpoint, I'm giving a B+. I think that this offensive line's done a really good job for the most part. There's been hiccups here and there, but Sam Darnold has had a lot of games where he's been sacked one or fewer times. Some of that's the quarterback, some of it's the scheme, and some of it's the offensive line. You got to give them credit for that. They've played some really aggressive defenses too, and they have been able to withstand a lot of those blitz-heavy teams and keep their quarterback upright. Run game-wise, I'm going to C- because there's been flashes. There's been games where this team has ran the football well, but there's still way too many plays that are getting blown up in the backfield. And again, some of that you can give the running backs a little bit of blame for that, but I think it's leaning heavier to the offensive line, and there's just still been too much leakage. The targets are not where they need to be. The execution's not where it needs to be. So, when I look at this line as a whole, to me, a B- fits right in the middle there. I think they have been much better in pass pro than run blocking. I think that is going to catch up as this year gets going, especially more snaps for a rookie like Gray Zabel, Jalen Sundell, a first-time starter, just getting more experience. I think you're going to see those guys improve. And maybe, just maybe, there's going to be a change coming at right guard, whether that's Christian Haynes coming off IR and getting a chance to get thrown back in the competition, or making a trade before the November 4th deadline. Anthony Bradford is still the weak link. I talked about this on yesterday's show a lot. There's still too many plays where he's missing blocks, he's lunging, and he's putting his quarterback or his running backs in a tough spot. So his performance individually drags the scores down a little bit. But I'm going to go with a B- with more of a heavy emphasis on the B+ for pass protection and a C- for run blocking.
Yeah, it's funny. We've been very close in our grades. Most of it, we haven't had the exact same grade until now. I also gave the offensive line a B-, and I think that there are, again, there's some Seahawks fans out there who think that Seattle's offensive line is an F every day, all day. But let me give you some numbers that would kind of refute that argument. In 7 games so far this season, the Seahawks have allowed 9 sacks. In case you're wondering, Geno Smith, Las Vegas Raiders, has absorbed 20 sacks so far. Last year, the Seahawks gave up 50 sacks over the course of the season. And at this point, they had also given up 20 sacks in 7 games. So to have only given up 9 sacks in 7 games after last year through 7 games, having given up 20, certainly somebody deserves some credit. So whether it be Clint Kubiak, whether it be John Benton, Rick Dennison as coaches, Sam Darnold as the quarterback getting the ball out of his hands, or crazy thought, Seattle's starting 5 offensive linemen who have played in every game so far this season. I think that the consistency, the durability of those 5 players playing together, they've developed a little bit of a brotherhood, if we're going to use the word that Leonard Williams provided you, sir, with your question about Seattle's defense, after their victory, against the Houston Texans. I think you're seeing that brotherhood along the offensive line as well. And then to your point about Seattle's running game, look, again, as I mentioned before, Zach Charbonnet averaging 2.7 yards per carry. I mean, there definitely have been some holes in Seattle's rushing attack. At the same time, this is a club that is 5th in points scored so far this season. They're averaging 27.5 points per game. That's, again, 5th in the NFL. They're 10th in yards acquired over the course of this season so far. They have 8 rushing touchdowns in 7 games. That ranked 7th in the NFL. This is a squad that's doing pretty good things along the offensive line. So again, a B- to me feels very fair. This definitely is a group that I think still has room for improvement. But at the same time, I also think about the relative youth of this group. When your oldest player is, I believe, Charles Cross at 25, 26 years old, and again, you don't have anybody on a second contract. I mean, this is an offensive line that's growing together. I think its best football is still ahead of it.
Let's go to the tight end group now, and I'll dish out some breaking news here in this segment. Eric Salbert was cut today. My understanding is that he is going to be brought back. This is just kind of one of those formalities with the roster, and maybe Robbie Oots is going to come off IR in the next day or two. I mean, there's some moves that could be coming, but Eric Salbert will be back. He's given them an identity in the run game, and he's played a lot of snaps. So he's also a really good special teams player. I expect him to be back. Look, I'm giving – maybe this might seem a little high. I'm giving this group an A-. I think that this tight end group, and A.J. Barner has been the second best offensive player for the Seahawks, not named – I guess you could say Sam Darnold in there too, but your skill players, he's the second best. He has become that second target. He's got 4 touchdowns. He's got a 61-yard back-breaking catch against Jacksonville. He has been a consistent force in the run game too. He's done a lot of really good things as a blocker. I think A.J. Barner is playing at a Pro Bowl level. He's been that good for the Seahawks this year. Elijah Arroyo has kind of been coming along slowly, and I know he had a fumble the other night. You can't have that, but he also had a 27-yard catch, had a couple other big plays. You're starting to see him get more involved in the offense, and he has been surprisingly decent as a run blocker. I don't think he's been great, but he hasn't been a hindrance either. He hasn't been a liability in the run game. Eric Salbert's done good things. when Brady Russell's been called upon to play fullback, he's been able to go in and do a nice job. And Robbie Oates was doing a nice job before he got hurt. I'm giving this group an A-. The fullbacks and tight ends I'm going to lump together. All these guys have tight end backgrounds. I just think this group has been a strength for this football team.
Yeah, I had it at A-. Elijah Arroyo fumbling the ball in this last game, I think dropped down to a B+ for me. But you and I are thinking very similarly. I just think that tight end has become a legitimate weapon in this offense. I thought it was going to be a weapon in Ryan Grubb's offense a year ago after all the success that he had with multiple tight ends at the University of Washington. And then it just didn't come to fruition, with the exception of A.J. Barner a season ago, finishing second in all of the NFL among rookies with tight ends with 4. He's already got 5 a year ago, I believe. He's already got 4, of course, as you just acknowledged, so far this season. And I think that he just adds an element of toughness to Seattle's front that I really am excited about. I love the breakaway potential that Elijah Arroyo possesses. I love the hands, the size combination. I mean, he really feels like he could be a superstar waiting to happen. And then, as you mentioned, with Eric Saubert, who I also expected to be back with the team at some point, whether it be practice squad or back on the actual active roster, because I think he is an important player for this team. So whether it be Brady Russell, Robbie Oates, we can acknowledge those players as well. I do think that this is a relative strength for the Seahawks. It's almost like they recognize that tight end has been something that they've struggled to defend themselves. So why not make that a strength of their offense? It makes it easier on every other positional group if you have guys that can block as well as catch, as well as run. And the Seahawks have, in my opinion, one of the deepest, most talented tight end groups in all of the league. I feel very comfortable with a B+ grade for the tight end group as a whole.
As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Rob at Rob Rang. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. When we come back for our Thursday show, going to be diving into defensive grades. Those will be coming your way with defensive line, linebackers, corners, safeties, and maybe sprinkle some special teams in there for Jay Harbaugh's crew. You won't want to miss it. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Go Hawks.